What is going on, everybody? Welcome to or back to Ryder's Record Collection. My name is Carl, and today I wanted to do a contest entry to the Wallflower contest and talk about the Doors, the Soft Parade. So Patrick from the Vinyl Archivist put this contest on. It's the Wallflower contest, and basically the way that he described it is you're gonna talk about an album that you see a lot or you can find pretty easily at record stores. From a band that doesn't necessarily, or maybe not from a band, maybe a solo album or something like that, but an album that doesn't necessarily get picked a lot. So I'm going with the Doors because you can find that quite a bit, and for some reason it doesn't get talked about nearly enough as the rest of the Doors albums, despite what I think to be its brilliance. It's a really good album. So let me give you a little bit of history about what happened at the time and why, even historically, since its release, it's considered a Wallflower in the Doors discography. The Soft Parade was the Doors' fourth studio album. It was released on July 18th, 1969, and it is the the subsequent album from Waiting for the Sun. And just to paint a picture of where the Doors were at when they recorded this album, following the release of Waiting for the Sun, it's mid-1968, and the Doors are one of the hottest bands in America. They're just blowing up all over the place. They're touring extensively. They're the Doors. They're being excessive. There's, probably a lot of drinking and drug use going on, but they're on the road. And since they were so big and they were touring so extensively, it left them with very little time to rehearse, record, or practice really any new music. So when I did some research on this album, I read a little bit about their touring schedule, which I can't really remember now, but it was pretty grueling. They were pretty busy. And around this time, too, Jim Morrison was beginning to become dissatisfied with the band. As many people know, he left and moved to Paris after the release of LA Woman. But this is when the tension of him not wanting to be a rock star and be a poet or whatever he wanted to be is starting to show. So he's becoming discouraged and is spending less and less time writing and recording with the band. So since Jim was beginning to get tired of the band, he was obviously very distant during the making of this album. And around this time, it's their fourth album, and a lot of that original Jim Morrison songbook that was cherry picked for the first three albums is pretty much gone. So there's a lot less Jim Morrison lyrical contributions on this album, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because it allowed the guitarist Robbie Krieger to write a lot more music. He wrote half the tracks on this album. And partially because of Krieger's lyrical input and to keep Jim interested and to popularize on the experimental culture at the time, this is the era of Pet Sounds and Sgt. Pepper's, the Doors decided to go in a completely different direction from their psychedelic blues rock that they had been doing and incorporate strings and brass instrumentation into their writing, and it's very grand and very over the top. And since Krieger was writing a lot more of the music, that allowed the album to go even more into that experimental aspect as opposed to the straightforward rock and roll route. They, as I mentioned, incorporated string and brass arrangements. They also incorporated art rock, blues rock, jazz fusion, and a little bit of psychedelic rock. The art rock and the jazz fusion are new elements that the Doors hadn't incorporated into their sound yet. And as I mentioned too, Krieger was writing lyrics that suited that type of music because him and the rest of the band were very involved in the making of the album, despite Jim Morrison's lack of interest. Now, what makes this album a Wallflower in the Doors discography is originally at the time of its release, it was panned by critics, didn't get good reviews. A lot of the group's core fans really abandoned it. They didn't like it. They thought it was a weak effort. A lot of publications even now call this the weakest album with Morrison because, as many people know, the Doors did 2 releases after Morrison's death. But the Morrison era lineup, a lot of people consider this the weakest one. And although the popularity has grown throughout the years, it's still something that I see around in record stores a lot that seems to get really picked over for some reason, despite its track listing and what I think is I don't think it's the Doors' best album, but I definitely think it is a contender for, top 3. It's got some chops. I really like this album despite its reputation as even historically being a Wallflower in the Doors discography. I think that Robbie Krieger's contributions lyrically are awesome, and I think that this is the album where the Doors really let loose and really experimented. There is a lot of different types of music on here. I'll go through all the tracks and I'll tell you who wrote what and give you a little bit of what each song touches on, as well as tell you my favorite songs, because there is a contender on here for probably my favorite Doors song ever. So Tell All the People, which I believe was a single, was written by Krieger, and that's a pretty lush song that definitely incorporates the jazz and strings. Touch Me had the working title of Hit Me, which was also written by Krieger. That's a pretty poppy song, which was another single. Jim Morrison didn't really want to go in the experimental rock direction as much as everybody else. So his songs that he wrote and contributed are more the classic Doors songs, although they are very, very experimental. Shaman's Blues, Morrison wrote, great song. Do It, Morrison and Krieger wrote, so please listen to the children. It's very important. They're the ones who will rule the world. Easy Ride, Morrison wrote, and I believe that Easy Ride was left over from the recording of Waiting for the Sun. So that is the psychedelic, pretty much the only psychedelic traditional Doors song that you get on this album. Wild Child, Morrison wrote, that is a great song. Runnin' Blue, Krieger wrote, and Runnin' Blue starts off going, poor Otis dead and gone, left me here to sing my song, pretty little girl with a red dress on, poor Otis dead and gone. That is the band giving a nod to Otis Redding, who had recently, to the recording of that song, died in a plane crash. So there, the Doors give a nod to good old Otis. Wishful Sinful, Krieger wrote, which was another good song. I believe that was a single as well. And then The Soft Parade, Morrison wrote. And The Soft Parade is the Doors on their first two albums have a way of closing it out pretty epically with these long numbers, and The Soft Parade is a collection of Jim Morrison's poetry. The whole song's 8 minutes and 47 seconds, and their producer helped him put together, and the band put it all down on track, and I think they were all tripping on acid when they did it. But apart from the Doors' reputation being super grand and whatnot, if you have any question as to whether or not the rest of the band, Ray, Krieger, and John, had musical chops, this is the album that proves it. There is so much depth to this album musically, even though it might be what some believe their weakest effort. It is really good. There's country rock on it, there's jazz on it, and listen to The Soft Parade. I don't know why that isn't on the level of Bohemian Rhapsody. The Soft Parade is such a killer song, just a standalone song, and that's the song that I think makes this a contender for top 3, because that is a really good band in their prime. So not only is this a really good album, musically the lyrics are also pretty good. I thought Krieger wrote some really good tunes for this. So there's a cool video of the Doors performing The Soft Parade live. I'll leave a link to that below, and if you've never heard the song, it's definitely worth checking out. And like I said, it will give you major, like, it'll show you just how well the musicianship was within the Doors. So this is my Wallflower contest entry. I don't know why this album doesn't get enough love. I don't know why I always seem to find it on the shelves or in the Doors section of the record store as the only one left, and there's sometimes even 2 or 3 copies of it. It is really good. If you haven't heard it and you like the Doors, I definitely suggest you check it out. If you're interested in just a good album to listen to, definitely check it out. And if you want to hear the song The Soft Parade, hit the link down below. Patrick, thank you for putting on this contest. I hope I submitted this in time, and hopefully you'll see it. And again, my name is Carl. This is Ryder's Record Collection. If you like this channel, please subscribe. If you like this video, please throw it a like, and I will have some more content out for you guys soon. Oh, and before I let you guys go, I just figured I'd come at you with this cool fact. I wrote it down and forgot to say it. So this album cost $80,000 to produce. And when I read that on the website that I got my information off of, I'm thinking that's 1969 era money. So that translates to $567,256.86 today in 2021. So not only was this a Wallflower that sold really poorly, this was also really, really, really expensive for the Doors to make. But hey, they were the Doors and they were grand. Cheers.